I was still working my way up the ladder, in the mortgage servicing side. So that was super important, very goal-oriented at that point, and even financially driven, to be honest. Because that's how young people feel like they're getting their self-worth a lot of times. But yeah, once I had my daughter, I really did some soul searching of, do I really want to be in the office this long? I spent about 20 years in the mortgage servicing industry, working my way up as I was finishing college. And, I got my degree in psychology and thought I was going to be a counselor. I was planning to go back and get my master's and be a licensed counselor. Thought about working at a school someday. That was always kind of in the back of my mind. Maybe I want to teach or be a school counselor. But working in the mortgage servicing call center, they recruited me as part of their management program, and I kind of went that route instead. It was comfortable. I knew the people. I felt good there. So managed for many, many years, got into training, doing a lot of corporate training for the staff there. It was high stress. I was working my way up in the company as well. Younger, still trying to figure out, how to balance work and life. So yeah, it definitely did feel at times comfortable because I knew exactly what I was doing. I was very knowledgeable in that field, but also just a lot of weight on the shoulders and a lot of stress. Definitely wasn't the lifestyle I wanted for us once we had kids. Probably the biggest thing was when we started a family, and I was pregnant with my daughter. I was still working my way up the ladder, in the mortgage servicing side. That was so important at the time. Worked my way up through several levels of management. I would oftentimes they'd say, "Oh, you're one of the youngest managers in this role," and I'm, yes, I know. So that was super important, very goal-oriented at that point, financially driven, to be honest, because that's how young people feel like they're getting their self-worth a lot of times. But yeah, once I had my daughter, I really did some soul searching of, do I really want to be in the office this long? Do I want her to be at daycare, for this many hours a day? My husband was traveling a lot with his job, and the two of us together just decided it'd be better if I either stayed at home full time or at least went part time. It was really a hard struggle for me at that point to think about no longer working at all and just being at home. I was like, that just feels weird to me because I've always worked. That's where, a lot of your self-worth comes from sometimes, is that you have this job and you're providing some income for your family. So really, the idea of going part-time was very comforting for me because I was like, oh, I don't think I could stay at home full time and just be with the baby all day, that kind of lifestyle. But I know a lot of people love that, and you see people how much they love it. And I'm like, maybe I could love it, but I don't know. But anyway, just going part-time at that point was kind of a safety net for me because I knew I could get that work-life balance, not have my daughter in daycare for too long of the day, but still have a little bit of that part of me, that independence of still being in the workforce. I worked from home for a little while, which was really great. That was nice. It wasn't my favorite position to do. It was more like risk management and compliance kind of work. I wasn't leading anybody or training people as much, but it was great because I was working from home. So it gave me a lot of flexibility, even with the same company. And then after a couple of years, they wanted all of us to come back into the building, and no longer the work from home wasn't the best idea for them, I guess they felt at the time, because of all the risk and just compliance nature of things, especially in mortgage servicing. At that point, did not want to commute halfway across town anymore, so decided to take a break and figure out what was next. So after that, my kids started going to a charter school, and the school needed a lot of help, needed extra hands on deck. So while I was taking a break, I decided to volunteer at the school and help them start up their lunch program at the elementary school. And that kind of became like a little mini part-time job. In college, I took a lot of early childhood development classes as my elective. So now that you say that, a lot of my electives kind of found their way in that niche. Took a lot of sociology classes as well. Almost did a minor in sociology, but didn't quite have enough hours. Kids and just seeing the development that the children need to go through has always been an interest. That's why I always thought about getting my teaching certificate, but didn't quite. The corporate world kind of sucked me up before all that happened. So it was always an interest of mine, which is why I kind of gravitated towards those classes in school. Just with the psychology, there was a little bit of interest in maybe child psychology at that time. I had taken that time off to work at the school for a little while and just have the freedom to get my kids where they needed to be. I guess it was when we were all at home during COVID. I was finally at that point. I started job hunting again and looking, and I was like, maybe I should go back and get my master's and get that counseling degree. And what would that look like? But then you look at the expense of it and the time it takes, and is it really going to be worth it? Do I really want to work in a school? And so I decided, let's see what jobs are available at my kiddo's school. I drive her there every day anyway. So actually came across, at the time they had a teaching fellow position, which you basically come in and you learn all about the school and you provide kind of substitute help for the school. So versus our school doesn't bring in external subs, they utilize their own teachers to sub throughout the day. So that's basically, what I did. Looking at the job description, I had everything it needed, a bachelor's degree, wanting to teach, that all of those sorts of things, and called up a friend of mine that was working there at the time, who also had kids. We met through our kids, but was like, wow, am I really qualified for this job? Should I go for it? And she convinced me to apply, and sure enough, I got it really quickly. I think I stressed out about that interview so much because it was so different from what I had done in the past. And he pretty much hired me on the spot over a Teams video call. Got my feet in the door in the school and started teaching. Really just subbing, backing up, doing the sub plans, but kind of realized over time that I didn't want to teach full time and be in the classroom all throughout the day. When this position became available early that year, actually, as director of operations, just everything, all the job criteria, all of the strengths and skill sets they were looking for just really fit with my past, and really felt like, oh, that's where I belong. Now it's kind of the best of all worlds again. I'm at my kiddo's school. I get to still hang out with all the kids and, have that sort of piece of my life be fulfilled, but also I'm in more of where my skill set lies in the operations world, with kind of managing projects and events and security and facilities and all of those sorts of things, rather than being responsible for teaching 30 plus kids every single day, class after class. So it's nice to have both aspects of things in my career now. It was nice to feel like you were actually making a difference for these little human beings, instead of working in the corporate environment where, you were helping customers a lot of the time, but it was more about the bottom line of, the company. Where here it was more at the school, it was more about taking care of the kids and making sure they were, happy every day and well fed, and being able to greet the teachers. And also, as a parent, especially as a younger parent, kind of getting that behind the scenes look at what the kids were experiencing on a day-to-day basis. This too shall pass, right? This time, it feels like the most important time of your life, or the most stressful time, or maybe you don't have friends to eat lunch with that day because you're going through a tough moment, but it'll be okay. It felt like the biggest thing ever, I remember as a kid at that time, and it is the biggest thing ever for that kid in that moment. But it's, just trying to let them know that, hey, this is, especially to my own kids, right, that this is just a fleeting moment. You're gonna get past this. You're more than just this. You're gonna grow past this. You're gonna learn, and you're gonna be okay.